Hi Forester fans, I'm Paityn Tabor here on the Coach's Show with Coach Kat, where we sit down each week and talk about last week's game and the upcoming one. This week we recapped last week's homecoming game against Illinois College and are going to preview the upcoming game against Ripon. Stay tuned! Hey Coach, congrats on the big homecoming win last weekend. That certainly makes it for a much more fun homecoming day.
It does. You know, we the goal of the week every week is go 1-0, and we accomplished that task. We shot ourselves in the foot a couple times, but we completed the task.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we talked about it a little bit last week, but how would you describe the atmosphere at Farwell for those that weren't able to be there?
Yeah, I mean, the Forester walk to start the day, like going through campus and the number of people who were on the balconies yelling and screaming for us and things like that, that was really cool. The tailgate lot with the parent group and a bunch of the alums that were back, really special that way. And then actually at Farwell Field, I mean, we were 5 and 6 deep in the end zone. The stands were all full, and it was loud. It was really cool to be a part of.
That's awesome. Now, kind of to recap the last game, the last two games, your guys have started off a little slow and didn't have a very big lead going into the half, but in both games they had a huge explosion in the third quarter. How do you fix this pattern of a slow start for this upcoming weekend?
That's the magic question right now for our team, to be honest with you. We're looking, is there something that we're not doing in the pregame? I do think that there is a dual-fold to this. You know, we've made critical errors early in the game. We had a fumble on the second drive of the game this past week. You know, we made a calculated gamble the week before against Cornell that didn't play off in our favor. So I think there's some things where we've kind of done some things in the first half to decrease our momentum. After going down, like first drive on Saturday, we go down 13 plays or whatever and score a touchdown. Defense goes and gets a stop. On offense, the next drive, 2 plays in, we have a fumble in our own territory, which gives them a short field. We can't do things like that. And I think that recapturing that momentum took us a little bit longer. To Illinois College's credit, they came out in a different defense than what we were expecting. So they had made some adjustments, obviously, as coaches, which is what they're paid to do. And then we had to make some adjustments as the game went on, and our second half offense was a lot more consistent and balanced than our first half offense was. You know, I think for our guys, it's that focus to consistency of execution. That's always kind of a thing for coaches. You want to make sure you see the same thing on play 1 and on play 5 and on play 15 throughout the course of the game. And I don't think we were there on Saturday. I think we came out focused. I think we had a very quiet, intense focus to it, despite all the energy that was around us. And I think we just got to find a way not to be that flatness. We got to combine that with that same focus, with that high energy. And I think if we do those two things combined, we'll be good.
Coach, now to transition into the game this weekend. You and your guys are undefeated thus far, but so is Ripon, and they've been winning big just like you. Last weekend they ran for 238 yards and are averaging 188 yards in their run game, and their running back Cormac Madigan is averaging 118 yards a game and has 7 touchdowns on the season. It's very clear that their offense is run through him. So can you sort of talk about his style of running and what you guys will need to do to stop him?
Yeah, I mean, Cormac, since the day he came into the league, has been one of the most dynamic players. I think you talk about his rushing yards, but he's also 7th in the conference in receiving yards per game. So he's a guy that they're going to find a way to get the ball to quite a bit. He's a physical, big, strong runner, and I think that's what's really kind of his game has matured. He actually went there as a quarterback when they were a triple option team, and then became a running back as they went to the spread. He's a guy that has some real talent for seeing the cut and being a little bit delayed into the hole. So he's a little, he's got that Le'Veon Bell kind of style where he's going to read it and then hit it with complete aggression. And when he does, I mean, you better be tackling and wrapping up harder. He's going to run people over and make it a long day. But Cormac's not going to be a surprise to us or our guys. Like, they know how good he is. He's a guy that we will have to identify, but he's not the only player they have that can make plays. They've got a really good group of wide receivers and a really talented quarterback as well. So I think that, Cormac is going to be the stir that, he's going to be the straw that stirs the drink a little bit, but he's really good. He's probably one of the best running backs in the league, probably top 3. I'll take Damon and Armani, and then I'll take him next. So,
Coach, on the flip side, Ripon's defense only gives up 226 yards per game on average. So what challenges does their defense pose that you guys will need to account for and adjust to?
Yeah, so Coach Ernst, their head coach, their defensive coordinator, and they run a hybrid 3-4 odd stack defense that they blitz and line stunt from all the different angles. And one of the things I've kind of told our guys throughout the course of the week is because of what they do, they're going to get some tackles for a loss against us. Like eventually they're going to slip a guy through and we're going to step right and that guy's going to step left and all of a sudden it's they're behind us and we're trying to dodge them in the backfield. So working with our offense this week, to really have the scout team defense give them a look, they've done a great job. But again, when you don't run it every single day, the nuances and the adjustments and the redirects, we just can't practice that at the speed which they'll execute it. So we know there's going to be a few negative plays at some point throughout the course of the game. Our job is to minimize those and try to keep those. If it's a TFL for 1 yard as opposed to a TFL for -5 yards, that's a lot different. And so if we can do that and play aggressive in the trenches, we'll be okay. But they're super talented. They give you a lot of different looks. And I think they've got 14 fifth-year seniors back on their team this year. So they really took the COVID year to strengthen their team. And with Coach Ernst, this being his last year, and he's announced his retirement, the guys on defense in particular, I think, are super motivated to support him in a great season.
Coach, never to look ahead, but you and your guys are sort of coming into the meat of your schedule now. We talked about Ripon, who's 5-0, and then your next two opponents are Grinnell, who's 2-2, and Monmouth, who's 4-0 in conference. How do you think playing at home at Farwell Field for these games will be advantageous for you and your guys going into this 3-game homestand?
I'd always like to sleep in my own bed the night before a game as opposed to a hotel. I think that's one of the things that, in Division III, it's not like when you're at Alabama and everybody gets their own hotel room and they've got, all the candies and goodies in there and all that kind of stuff. There's something about being able to sleep in your own bed the night before a game, and I think that's probably the biggest advantage. The comforts of home and the energy that our stands will have, I think, are two things that are always supportive of us. But as much as those other games are going to be important in a couple of weeks, it's only about Ripon. We can't, it's fall break this week, and there's still going to be a really good crowd there, and I think that there's a chance for us to just kind of keep going on in our rhythm and improving. Because if we can do what we did in the third quarter and the fourth quarter against both Cornell and against Illinois College in the first half, it makes the second half a lot easier, against Ripon.
Absolutely. Well, that's all I have for you today, Coach. So thanks for sitting down and talking with me, and I look forward to talking with you next week after another Forester victory.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Go Foresters!